Hey guys, tonight we begin in a place where the world disappears, not because it's far, because it's buried, under snow, under silence, under the kind of pain no map warns you about. You gave birth in a blizzard, alone, and survived long enough to see someone approach through the whiteout, but he didn't call out, didn't wave, didn't ask who you were. He just carried you to firelight and stayed quiet. If you've ever held a child before holding your own breath, if you've ever survived something so big, it took days for your voice to return, then tonight's for you. Like and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy what I do here. Drop your location and local time in the comments. I always read them. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You wake without sound. At first, you're not sure you're breathing. Then you feel the pain in your side, the ache between your legs, the weight across your chest. Your daughter, swaddled in rough fabric, nestled against you like she still belongs inside. Her twin rests beside her, still. You count fingers, 10 more. They're both alive. So are you. You shouldn't be. But the fire nearby tells you someone else was here, still is. You try to rise, your body protests, but you manage. Just enough to sit up, just enough to see the room. One bed, one table, 2 chairs, and on the far wall 3 hooks, a coat, a bow, a necklace made of carved bone and smooth stone. You blink hard. A shadow moves by the window. You tense. But something in you, tired, primal, broken wide open, doesn't panic. You shift the babies gently, pull the blanket tighter, and wait. He enters without sound. Snow still clings to his shoulders. He smells of pine, ash, and wind. He doesn't speak, just kneels by the fire, stokes it, feeds it, never glances your way. Then he pours something warm into a tin cup, stands, walks it over, and holds it out. You don't move. Your hand twitches. He doesn't push it on you. Just places the cup on the small stool beside the bed. And leaves, back into the snow. You sip the drink slowly. It's pine needle tea. You haven't tasted it in years. It floods your chest with heat. You curl around your children, say their names aloud for the first time. Whispered, private, sacred. And the wind outside stills, like it heard, like it agreed to hold off a while longer. You sleep again. This time you dream of fire that didn't burn, only warmed, and a voice that didn't speak, only stayed. You wake to the sound of a knife against wood, not fast, not frantic, just patient, rhythmic, the kind of sound that reminds your heart it can beat slow again. Your babies still sleep. One has her hand wrapped in the other's collar, as if they were born with the same breath. You lift them gently, place them in the woven basket beside the bed. Someone lined it with wool, fresh, soft, not yours. You rise, unsteady, but upright. You step barefoot across the cabin floor. Cold seeps through the planks, but the fire keeps its promise. You pause at the doorway to the next room. There he is, the man, sitting cross-legged on the floor, working a piece of wood into something long, curved. He doesn't look up, but he nods once. A welcome, or acknowledgement, or simply a habit of someone who doesn't forget how to live with company. You watch his hands, steady, sure, quiet. You whisper, "Who are you?" He doesn't answer. Not because he didn't hear, because he knows the question isn't for him, not yet. You say it again, quieter, for now, I'll call you Safe. Still no response, but his lips press tighter, like that word meant something, or reminded him of something he lost. You make a place on the bench, wrap the shawl tighter around your waist, and stare at the fire like it might explain what happened, what didn't, what still waits. Then you notice what he's carving. Not a weapon, not a tool. A cradleboard for twins. The air shifts, not colder, not warmer, just still. You feel it like a curtain closing behind you. You look at him. Finally ask, "Why did you help me?" He stops, places the carving down, looks toward the fire, then answers, one word, low, gravel-wrapped, almost forgotten. "Because someone didn't help her. That's all. But it's enough." You say, "I won't run." He nods, then adds, "Neither did she." And something inside you begins to thaw, the kind of warmth that only comes after everything else has burned. The storm doesn't stop, but it forgets to scream. You begin to count the days by how many times he brings in wood and how many times the children cry at night. 3 times for hunger, twice for cold hands. Once for no reason at all. You learn their patterns before you learn his name, and that feels right. He gives you space, never asks questions, but you notice things. The way he sharpens his blade slower when you hum, the way he watches the children from the corner of his eye, not with doubt, with something gentler. Recognition, maybe, or longing, or memory. On the 4th morning you hear voices, not his, not yours. Whispers outside. You peek through the shutter, just trees, snow, silence again. When you turn, he's already by the door, bow in hand. You ask, "Are they yours?" He doesn't look back, just says, "They were hers." Then he steps outside. You wait, longer than you'd like, but not alone. The twins sleep in the basket. You touch their hair, still damp at the roots, still soft like mothwing. Then you hear it. Footsteps returning, but not one set. 3. The door opens, and behind him 2 figures enter. Women, older, worn, Comanche. They speak without looking at you. Their language flows like water over bone. But you catch enough. One nods toward the fire. The other sets a wrapped bundle on the table, bread, roots, something warm inside hide. Jonas, you still call him that in your mind, says nothing. But when they leave, he kneels beside the fire, unwraps the bundle, takes nothing, slides it towards you. You take a bite, close your eyes, whisper, "I haven't tasted this since," and stop, because the memory hurts more than the hunger. He doesn't press, just places a small cup of tea near your hand, says one word, finally, "Eat." And somehow, that command doesn't come from the man. It comes from the house, the land, the part of you that hasn't broken, only bent, and is now ready to be fed. You wake before the children. The light outside is gray, not morning, not night, that in-between shade that feels like memory. You sit by the hearth. The cradle board he carved leans against the wall, now lined with moss and wool. He shaped it for twins without asking, without error. You touch the edge. Run your fingers across the painted band at the top, one half red, one half pale blue, balanced, like he knew something about your daughters that you didn't yet. He enters quietly, sets down a folded pelt near the door. It's been cleaned. You nod. He nods back, then sits, not close, but not far. You watch the fire together, say nothing. But the silence feels full now, not empty, not awkward, just shared. Then you speak, not because you plan to, because the room asked for it. "I buried my husband 3 nights before the storm." He doesn't look at you, doesn't flinch. You go on. "He was a good man, but not a strong one." Still silence. You say, "He ran when the pain started. When the blood came, he panicked." You swallow hard. "I delivered them alone, on a cabin floor that wasn't built right, on a night too cold for anyone to survive." The fire pops. He finally speaks, soft, low, "Still did." You close your eyes, nod. "Still did." That night you feed the girls together. You hold one, he holds the other. She doesn't cry, not once. His hands are rough, scarred, but gentle. She smiles. You don't, not yet. But your chest loosens, your breath deepens. You whisper, "She knows you." He looks at the child, then at you. No, she remembers. and something in you shifts, because that word, remembers, feels more right than anything else you've heard in weeks. The snow lifts a little, not enough to leave, but enough to breathe. You open the shutters for the first time since you arrived. Light spills into the cabin, gray, yes, but honest. Your daughters blink against it, then stare, then giggle. You lift them into the light like you're offering something back, to the land, to the sky, to whatever spirit walked you here when you had no direction, you say aloud. They're here. I'm still here. The wind doesn't answer, but it also doesn't resist. Later you find him by the tree line. He's marking something on the bark, not a word, not a name, just a line. 2 curved marks, one long, one short, joined in the center. He doesn't hide it when you step closer. You ask, "What does it mean?" He shrugs. "Boundary." You nod. Ask, "Yours or mine?" He pauses, then replies, "Ours?" And that word, "ours," lands deeper than you expect. You don't press him. You just touch the mark once. Feel the cold in the bark and the warmth in his voice. That night he brings you a pouch. Inside, roots, crushed herbs, something that smells like smoke and cedar. He gestures to your hands. They're cracked, bleeding at the corners. You say, "They've been worse." He says they don't have to be. He mixes the paste, applies it himself. No apology, no invitation, just care. You want to say thank you, but it's too small a phrase, so you let him finish. Wrap your hands, then sit beside him by the fire. Your daughters sleep between you. 2 soft bundles, 2 lives you never thought would make it past the first night. You whisper, "I didn't think I'd see spring." He stares at the flames, then says, "You won't just see it." He nods toward the cradleboard. "You'll plant it." And somehow you believe him. The thaw begins not with warmth, but with sound, dripping from the eaves, creaking in the wood, a soft groan beneath your boots as you step outside. The world isn't blooming yet, but it's listening, waiting, like the valley knows something new has rooted itself here, and it wants to see if you'll stay. You start walking again, not far, just to the spring and back. He joins you sometimes, carries one child, you carry the other. No words, just wind, water, and weight shared. The path you take becomes familiar. He lays stones beside it. You don't ask why, but you start stepping on them anyway. One afternoon, a woman arrives, alone, wrapped in layers that speak of distance. Her horse limps. Her boots are torn, but her eyes are clear. You meet her at the edge of the trees. She says, "I heard there's a place." You say, "There might be." She asks, "Does it need another set of hands?" You look back toward the cabin, hear the babies cooing, see the smoke curling from the chimney, feel the warmth still wrapped around your wrapped fingers, then you nod. Yes. She ties her horse, steps into the clearing, and doesn't look back. That night she helps chop wood, sharpens your knives, adds herbs to the stew you didn't know were missing. Jonas watches, says nothing. But he doesn't sleep with one eye open that night. You notice, and smile. The woman doesn't ask where you came from. You don't ask her either. Some people bring answers, others bring presents. You're learning to trust both. She says her name is Alma. You repeat it softly before bed, and the girls seem to sleep deeper for it. Alma doesn't stay on the edge of things. She moves in like she was always meant to. Within days, the girls reach for her. Jonas sets another plate without being asked. You give her the woven blanket that once belonged to your husband. She doesn't say thank you. She presses her forehead to it, and that says more. The 3 of you build a lean-to for firewood, for tools, for whatever comes next. Jonas teaches her how to lash pine. She teaches you how to catch snow melt before it turns. You begin to laugh more, not loudly, not suddenly, but in small round sounds that feel like breath finally finding a way out. The girls mimic it, echo it back like birds learning their own songs. One morning you wake to find something new on the table. A bundle of dried herbs tied in red thread, a shell with ash, a stone with 3 lines carved into it. You don't know what it means, but Jonas nods when he sees it. And Alma hums a note you've never heard, low, steady. You say, "Is this a blessing?" She says, "It's a place marker." You ask, "For what?" She shrugs, "Belonging." Later that day you carve something into the cabin wall. Your daughter's names, first letters only, small, in the corner, just above the cradleboard. Not because you're claiming the space, because you're acknowledging what it's become, a home. That night, Jonas speaks more than 3 words in a row. He tells a story about a woman who once taught him to build fire without kindling. How she said, "The trick is believing the flame is already there." You ask, "Did it work?" He nods. "You're here, aren't you?" You smile, because you are, and because the fire has never gone out. You wake to bird song, real, full, undeniable. Spring has arrived, not as an announcement, but as a presence. The snow is a memory now. The path to the river runs soft underfoot. The girls crawl faster than you can think. You mark the season's first day, not with a calendar, but with the first time you leave the cabin without a coat. And don't shiver. Alma begins planting, rows of herbs along the cabin's south side. You kneel beside her, pressing roots into soft earth. She teaches you which ones call bees, which ones keep fever away. Jonas builds a trellis from scavenged wood. You hang old fabric across it, shade for the girls when they sit in the sun. They clap at the light through the cloth. Everything feels slow and right, like nothing important could possibly happen too fast. Until it does. A rider, dust-covered, breathing hard. He doesn't dismount, just stops at the edge of the clearing. Jonas meets him first. Stands still, no weapon drawn, but no welcome either. You join them, Alma behind you, the girls inside. The man says, "I was sent to find a widow named Sarah, one with twin daughters." You stiffen. The world narrows. Jonas says nothing. Alma steps forward. "Who's asking?" The man hands her a letter, sealed, unmarked, says, "That's all I was told," then turns his horse, rides off without looking back. Inside you open the letter. It's from your late husband's brother. He heard you survived. He's offering land, money, a name for the girls. In return, return. To the town, to the church, to the life you left in blood and snow. You read it twice, then burn it. No rage, no speech, just fire. You whisper, "They already have a name." And outside the wind shifts, toward you. You don't tell the girls about the letter. You don't need to. The next day, they run their fingers along the ash in the hearth like it's sacred, like they understand what was burned. You kneel beside them. Say, "Some people offer things that already belong to you." They don't answer. But one of them presses her hand over your heart, and the other, she laughs. "That's all the response you need." Alma adds another row to the garden. This one, she says, is just for color. Every place needs something beautiful that doesn't serve a purpose, she explains. Jonas builds a bench beside it, low, wide, enough space for a whole conversation to happen without standing. You sit there most evenings now, watching the girls chase shadows, listening to the bees, letting silence braid between all 3 of you. Then, one afternoon, another visitor comes, a woman older, wrapped in leather and silence. She carries no bag, only a stick carved with symbols. She kneels at the edge of the garden, doesn't speak, but stares at the twins like she's reading a story only they carry. You step forward, offer water. She accepts, then finally says, "This place isn't hidden." You nod. We're not trying to hide." She points to the trellis. "To build in open light is to call attention." Jonas joins you, says, "Then let them come." The woman smiles, soft, sad. "You'll need stronger boundaries than stones and stories." You ask, "Can you help?" She nods. "I already am." Then she gives the girls each a small pouch, tells them nothing, just ties it to their belts, and walks away. That night you open one of the pouches. Inside, ash, a single seed, and a folded scrap of cloth with a name stitched in red, "You're yours." But not written by you, by someone who's been watching and decided you belong. You keep the pouch on your nightstand. Don't wear it, don't tuck it away, just keep it near. Like a question you're not ready to ask. The stitched name looks like it was done by firelight. The thread pulls in places, but it holds, like your story. Not perfect, but still here. The girls begin to speak in tandem, not always words, sometimes rhythm, sometimes echo, but their voices weave. And you wonder if that's what legacy sounds like before it's named. You teach them names of plants. Alma teaches them colors. Jonas teaches them how to watch wind. They remember all of it, like sponges made of breath, like their bodies were carved for continuity. One morning a boy arrives, barefoot, half-starved, carrying a wooden horse with no head. He doesn't speak for 3 days. Sleeps on the floor beside the stove, eats only when the girls bring him food. Then finally, he points to the bench outside and says, "That's mine." You smile, say, "It can be." He nods once, and that's the beginning of something wider. That evening you open a fresh page in your journal. You write, "They come in pieces, they leave as story." You don't know who you're writing for anymore. Your daughters, yourself. Maybe someone who'll find this place after you're gone. You just know it feels necessary, like stitching, like fire making, like beginning again. Jonas finds the boy carving names into the side of the trellis, not his own, the girls. You ask, "Should we stop him?" Jonas shakes his head. "No, that's how he stays." So you bring him another piece of wood. He carves a circle, then hands it to you. You hang it above the door, say nothing, but from then on, no one knocks. They just walk in. You stop counting seasons the way you used to. Now it's measured in firsts. First time the girls climb the hill alone. First tooth lost. First bruise kissed and forgotten. The garden grows wild. Alma lets it. Says, "Nothing sacred ever stayed in rows." You don't argue. You just watch your daughters run through a color and shadow, like they invented freedom. You take in another woman, then 2, one with a child on her hip, another with ink-stained fingers and no shoes. They come from different places, carry different kinds of silence. But you recognize the rhythm, the way they breathe before they speak, the way they say "thank you" without saying anything at all. One brings a book wrapped in fabric, tied with red string. You ask what's inside. She says, "Everything I never said out loud." You don't open it. You build a shelf instead. Set it beside your own journal and whisper, "Here's where the words can rest." Jonas calls that corner the library. No one laughs. The name fits too well. The boy, older now, begins teaching the younger ones how to carve. You catch him whispering stories to the wood. You don't stop him. You encourage it. Because stories that enter wood stay longer than the ones that only pass through mouths. You tell him so. He nods, then says, "One day, they'll forget my voice." You reply, but not your hands. He smiles, keeps carving. At dusk, you sit with Jonas by the fire. He holds a scrap of hide in his lap, burns your name into it, then hands it to you. You ask, "Why now, Zure?" He shrugs. "Because you stayed." You hold it in your lap, say nothing. But in your chest, a new door opens. And you don't close it. A traveler brings news. She arrives near dusk, feet bleeding through cracked moccasins. She carries no pack, only a name. Your husband's. She says it like it still belongs to you. You flinch. Jonah stiffens. The girls sense the shift in the air and fall quiet. You ask her to repeat it. She does. Then adds, his brother's looking. Says he wants to bring you home. You smile, but it's not joy, it's recognition. A familiar ache that once felt like loyalty. Now it feels like distance. You say, I am home. The traveler nods slowly, then leaves you a note written in blocky script. He still has the deed to your father's land. He wants to give it to the girls. You burn that note too, quietly, no audience, no sermon, just ash in the wind. Later, Jonas asks if you regret not going back. You shake your head. No, that place buried me, he asks. And this place? You look at the girls, the garden, the shelf of journals. This place remembered me. He says nothing, just places his hand over yours, leaves it there. Like a promise not to pull, just to be. You begin a new journal, this one bound in hide, stitched by the boy. He's grown taller now, softer around the eyes. He asks if he can write in it too. You say yes. You say, start with your name. He says, which one? You pause, then answer, the one that stayed. That night you read aloud from the old pages, the ones written before the storm. You read about fear, about birth, about not knowing who would help. And when you finish, Grace takes the book from your lap, closes it, says, that part's over. You nod and begin again. Spring arrives louder this time. Birds fill the morning. Rain soaks the roots, and children laugh in the garden like they're auditioning for joy. You plant onions with Alma. She hums a tune neither of you know the words to, but it carries rhythm, the kind that makes the air feel ancient, like the land remembers when women first did this, and smiled doing it. You start carving small tokens, circles, spirals, tiny handprints in clay, each one with a name, not always the birth name, sometimes just what they became when they arrived. You place them in a basket by the hearth. One girl calls them arrival stones. You like that. You ask her if she wants to make her own. She says, not yet. I'm still arriving. That becomes the phrase, still arriving. No one's ever finished here. And that feels right. One afternoon, a writer brings you paper, official, government seal. You open it slow, read the words, petition to claim educational parcel invalid. You blink, read it again, then again. Jonas watches, asks, what does it mean? You say, they're saying this school doesn't exist. He nods once, then adds, let's make it louder. That night you gather the children, ask each of them to speak one sentence. Only one. What this place means. You write it down. Every word, one by one. Some say safe, some say warm. One boy says, it's where my voice came back. When it's over, you thread the pages into one book, tie it shut, label the cover with 5 words. You cannot deny what breathes. You leave it on the porch. So if they return, they'll have to pick it up first. The next letter comes folded in halves. No seal, no threat, just 7 words scrawled in ink too stiff to trust. We'll be sending someone to inspect. You place it on the fire, but don't burn it, not yet. You leave it on the mantel like an ember that hasn't decided what to ignite. Jonas begins reinforcing the beams, not from fear, from principle. Alma sharpens every knife and sets the bowls in rows. You sweep the floor twice that day, not because it's dirty, but because movement helps. The girls notice. One says, are we hiding? You kneel. Say, no, we're showing up. That becomes the new rule. No silence, no tiptoeing, no explaining who we are. unless asked with kindness. The inspector arrives 3 days later. A woman, tall, tired, wrapped in posture that says she's here for record keeping, not trouble. She takes notes, asks questions like, "Who founded this? Who funds it? Where are your papers?" You answer everyone the same. "We stayed." She walks the garden, sees the arrival stones, lingers on one with a cracked corner. She doesn't smile, but she doesn't frown either. Later she sits with you. "No clipboard now, just tea." She says, "This doesn't fit into the categories." You sip slow. Say, "Neither do they." She nods once, then asks, "Are you prepared if they try to take it?" You shake your head. Say, "They can't take what we've already planted." Before she leaves, she lays a single note on the table. They'll ask for evidence. I'll tell them I saw children reading. I'll tell them I heard laughter. You read it twice, then burn it. Not in anger, in trust. Because truth, once witnessed, doesn't need signatures, only memory. You wake before the sun. The cabin is quiet, but not empty. The fire still hums low. The journals rest on their shelf. The girls curl together on the woven mat like roots entwined. You step outside. The grass is wet. The sky a soft ache of light. You walk the ridge barefoot, not because you have to, because you want to remember what it feels like to stand without armor. The wind is kind. You whisper, "We're still here." It answers by lifting your hair, just slightly, enough to count as a blessing. Later you gather the children in the circle room. The boy now leads story hour. He doesn't read, he recites from a memory. He ends with this line, "The place you survive in is not the same as the place you choose to live." You write it down. Place it in the book marked Voices. It rests between pages that once only held yours. Now they carry 23 names, and counting. You find Jonas in the garden. He's pruning back the herbs. Alma is sewing in the light. The girls are stringing leaves like letters. You sit beside them, say nothing, because today isn't for more. It's for enough. At dusk, you write the last entry in your first journal, the one that started the night the twins breathed frost and fire. You write, "I gave birth in a storm. I was carried here by silence, but I stayed because someone didn't ask me to leave, and that is how this school was born." You close the book, place it on the porch. Let the night read it. If someone finds it tomorrow, they'll know. They'll feel the breath still inside the spine, and maybe, just maybe, they'll stay too.